Individuals are using genetic ancestry testing in innovative ways to force a conversation about race and racial reconciliation in this country. African Americans come to genetics through the history of eugenics, through a history of pseudoscience and scientific racism that used human variation and biological differences as a justification for social and political inequality. That, on the one hand, is something that would make African Americans skeptical or distrustful of genetics and genetic testing. On the other hand, one of the after effects of the transatlantic slave trade was the loss of knowledge about families and about origins in ancestry. So the broad appeal of genetic ancestry testing among African Americans is that it's one of the few ways that these questions can be answered about the past. I used genetic ancestry testing and was inferred to be related to the Bamileke people of Cameroon using mitochondrial DNA testing. So on the one hand, you had my very measured father who barely looked up from his newspaper when I was sitting at the kitchen table telling him this news and sort of took a cup of coffee and said, "Oh, that's interesting." On the other hand, you have my mother who was effervescent and exuberant and couldn't believe her good fortune to have had this news come into our family. And since this time has started relationships with various members of their local community in Virginia who are immigrants from Cameroon. In particular, she's become very close with one family and invited them to the last Thanksgiving at our home. How these tests operate in the social world is far more complicated than we get from television ads. What I was able to follow is the years after that initial information is received by someone who's interested in their ancestry. And where those social lives go is widely varied. These tests, I think, at their best, allow new forms of connection that might not have otherwise been possible.